The Comeback Path, Power, Shame, and the Rebel Art of Living Fully Anyway, by Peter Nicholas Lustig, read by the author. About the author. Peter Nicholas Lustig is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, educator, and lifelong student of transformation from Columbus, Indiana. He holds an MBA from Indiana University and a bachelor's degree from Olivet Nazarene University. A fluent Mandarin speaker and lover of language, Peter is passionate about culture, communication, and the power of words to heal and inspire. He's deeply invested in the world of self-growth, life coaching, and emotional recovery, both personally and professionally. When he's not mentoring others or studying real estate deals, you'll find him watching the Indiana Hoosiers play basketball, cheering on the Indianapolis Colts, or trading and restoring from his personal collection of over 100 pairs of Jordan basketball shoes. Above all, he loves being a dad and considers time with his daughter and family his greatest joy and purpose. Dedication. To me, Peter Nicholas Lustig. No, not out of ego, but out of necessity, because at some point I had to stop waiting for someone else to save me. This book is my way back, my reminder that I'm worth the fight. Author's note: a living experiment. The comeback path isn't written from the mountaintop. It is not some wisdom-drenched manual from a man who figured it all out. It's a living experiment. It's the story of how I fell apart and how I'm rebuilding piece by sacred piece. Not just for myself, but for anyone who's ever wondered if their worst mistakes disqualified them from their best life. I didn't write this book because I have the answers. I wrote it because I need to walk them out. And maybe if you're holding this, you're ready to walk yours too. This book is raw, it's imperfect, it's alive. And that's exactly what healing feels like. Yes, I dedicated this book to myself. Some may say that's a bit self-important. But for me, it's self-respecting. Because if I'm honest, there's a part of me that still finds it easier to doubt myself than to believe in myself. And I don't think I'm the only one. You see, for a lot of us, self-criticism comes more naturally than self-compassion. We often downplay our strengths, minimize our wins, and carry a quiet fear that maybe we're just not enough. But that kind of thinking, it's not necessary. And it doesn't have to be permanent. So in these pages, you'll see my flaws and failures laid bare. And I'm not asking for pity, but as proof that you can tell the truth about your life and still choose to build something beautiful. You might even catch me overcorrecting, naming my worth louder than I feel that day. But that's the practice. That's the work of real, grounded self-respect. And my hope is that this book helps you practice it too. At some point, your story starts to crumble. The old coping mechanisms stop working. The distractions lose their power. And you're left with a brutal choice: evolve or stay miserable. I wrote this book to lift my life from the ashes, to turn shame, hurt, grief, and loneliness into something meaningful, something that could light the way. The other reason? I don't want to go to my grave with my music still inside me. For far too long, I have let fear hold the pen, fear of being judged, fear of not saying it right, fear of being dismissed or stupid. But none of that compares to the regret I'd carry if I never tried. So, I'm leaving it all on the floor because this game does have an ending. You're about to read about the risks I took, some bold and beautiful, others stupid and scary. Stick to the bold and beautiful ones, please. And if nothing else, let this book remind you it's not too late to become who you were meant to be. How to use this book. The Comeback Path is part memoir, part guidebook. Each chapter includes the story, what happened, key learning, the insight that I carried forward, invitation, a way to walk your own comeback path, and closing quote, a short phrase that neatly wraps it up. You're invited not just to read, but to walk, to build, to forgive, to create. There is no rush. There is no right way. This is your path now too, and you get to move at the pace your soul can handle. If you bring honesty and courage to these pages, I'm confident they'll return strength and clarity in kind. Above all, this book is a mirror, not a lecture. It's an invitation, not a demand. It's a comeback path, and it's wide enough for both of us. Chapter 1. The Man I Lost Myself Trying to Be. The story. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to burn my life down. I eroded it slowly, one quiet lie, one small compromise, one moment of fear at a time, until the man I thought I was disappeared. One night, I found myself in a stranger's apartment, smoking something I swore I'd never touch, trying to fill a hole that grief and regret had blown clean through my chest. I wasn't a teenager. I wasn't reckless or naive. I was 39 years old, divorced, heartbroken, ashamed, and reaching for anything that might numb the silence. I couldn't believe what I was doing. And the truth is, it wasn't even the first time. Years earlier, in my late 20s, I had tried a similar drug once with my older brother Joe and a friend. But this wasn't about curiosity anymore. This time, it was about pain. Tragedy had struck our family. Joe, the middle brother between Jake and me, had just died suddenly of a heart attack. He was 42 years old. It broke something in me. He wasn't just my brother. He was my best friend and the funniest human I've ever known. His death left a crater in my life that nothing could fill. Of the three of us, I was always closest to Joe. He was the bridge between me and Jake, both in age and in energy. Jake spent years in and out of jail for drug offenses, and while I stayed straight-laced most of my youth, I never judged him. We lived very different lives for a long time. And truthfully, Jake's transformation over the past few years has been nothing short of inspiring. He turned his life around without losing who he is at his core. And these days, he genuinely encourages me just as much as I ever tried to encourage him. At the same time, my 10-year marriage had ended. I had a daughter I adored, a head full of regret, and a heart drowning in what-ifs. Then I started dating Elena. We had good moments, but chaos too. fights, mistrust, emotional whiplash. And one night, in the middle of all that noise, I made a decision that would change everything. I crossed a line I never thought I would. I spent time with someone I didn't know. She had drugs I had never tried before. And that night, in a moment of weakness, I gave in. I didn't lose everything in that moment, but I continued to lose myself, one cowardly choice at a time. I brought the pipe home. Elena found it. She didn't know the full story, but what she saw was enough to destroy what little trust we had left. We were living together at the time, and the distance between us had already been growing. That moment, her discovering it, took what little trust we had left and crushed it. And instead of owning it, I lied. Lied about the pipe, lied about the woman, tried to hold the story together with shame and silence. That's the thing about shame. It doesn't scream at first. It whispers. And I listened. Eventually, I confessed, and it broke us. But it didn't just fracture our relationship. It fractured my standing in my own family. Elena told my mom. Word spread. Pete had lost control. Yet somehow, amidst all of this, things got worse. I seemed to be making one bad decision after another. One night, when I was already slipping, Jake, years into recovery at this point, called me. He'd heard what I'd done, and he asked me if I could get him some. And I said yes. I told myself it was just a moment, a cheat day as he called it, something we could tuck away and forget. But I knew better. It didn't feel like connection. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like I was handing him a piece of the shame I couldn't carry alone. And it broke something in me. Why did I say yes to his request? Because part of me has always been an experimenter, a feeler, the kind of person who doesn't just want to study life, I want to taste it. I've always believed that the full spectrum of human experience holds meaning, even in the mess. It's how I justified a lot of the choices I now regret. I told myself I was just curious or open or living fully. But the truth, I was using that belief as a shield from grief I didn't know how to face. Joe was gone, and that left an empty space in my soul that no experience could fill. And Jake, he was just trying to stay clean, but he saw me slip, and he reached out, not for the substance, but for the connection. And I gave it to him in the worst way. We got high together that night. It didn't feel edgy or deep or enlightening. It felt like betrayal. The worst kind, against the man I swore I'd become. The man my daughter believes I am. The man my family once saw me as. The man Joe always saw in me. It was like watching my reflection in a cracked mirror. Distorted, unrecognizable. A hollow version of myself, playing out a story I didn't want to be in. Key learning. Sometimes you don't fall all at once. You erode quietly in little decisions that seem survivable until they add up to a life you don't recognize. I thought being mostly good was enough. I thought regret could be covered by charm, by good intentions, or flat-out stubbornness. But the truth is brutal. If you abandon your standards long enough, you abandon yourself. I wasn't evil. I wasn't heartless. But I had stopped protecting the man I wanted to be. And when you stop protecting him, he disappears. Invitation. Before you turn the page, stop for a moment. Ask yourself, without shame, where have I been eroding without noticing? And then ask, what one standard, no matter how small, am I willing to rebuild starting today? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Write it down if you can. Whisper it if you must. Lay the first brick, even if your hands are shaking. Closing quote. You don't lose yourself in a moment. You lose yourself in the moments you think don't matter. Reclaim yourself one moment at a time. Chapter 2. The Woman, the Wound, the Wake Up. The story. Her name was Elena, and for a time, she was my safe place. Ours wasn't some fiery wreck waiting to happen. It was something gentler, rarer. With her, I felt seen. I felt loved in a way I hadn't known before. There was intimacy, safety, quiet connection. She had a beautiful spirit. Being loved by her felt like grace. We had late night and early morning chats. She'd come to properties with me while I worked. She was a great cook. She brought warmth into my life during a season that felt cold and hollow. But somewhere along the way, I began to lose myself inside the relationship. Why exactly? I'm not sure. Who knows these things? Maybe I was dealing with grief and loss and was looking for Elena to fill a hole that only I was able, if not yet fully ready, to fill. I mistook intensity for intimacy, chemistry for connection. I thought love would fix the ache, not reveal it. It's possible to feel safe in someone else's arms while abandoning your own soul. I started hiding things, minimizing my guilt, dodging hard truths, not because I didn't care, but because I was terrified of losing the one thing that made me feel okay, in a season when everything else had crumbled. And the pressure? It was always there. I had a therapist once tell me that the source of my anxiety wasn't what I thought. It wasn't just the shame. It was the fact that I'd gone from juggling 3 or 4 things to 10 things at once, trying to be perfect at all of them, and then tearing myself apart when I couldn't hit the mark. Then it happened. The pipe, the woman, the lie. She found it, and the truth unraveled fast. She didn't know everything yet, but she knew enough to feel betrayed. I tried to cover it up at first, but that was just fear talking. Eventually, I told her everything. She packed up her kids and moved out. I remember the silence that followed. It was deafening. I can still hear it. The house felt hollow. My life did too. She told my mom. My family found out. The story spread faster than I could catch it. And then came the post. A friend sent me a screenshot. There it was. My name, my mistake, my failure, put on display in a group of women on the internet who warn each other about men they see as dangerous or dishonest. Obviously, I wasn't even in the group, but it felt like I had been put on trial with no voice, no context, no way back. It gutted me. The shame wasn't just public, it was surgical. But here's the strange thing. That pain didn't just crush me. It cracked something open. I began to see how much shame I had been carrying, how much I had buried, how hard I had worked to perform instead of just be. That heartbreak, hers and mine, was the line in the sand. It forced me to stop pretending. It's wild how the moment you get caught can become the moment you get free. And for the first time in a long time, I let the truth burn away the masks. It hurt like hell, but it woke me up. And I'll always be grateful to her for the love she gave me and for the mirror she held up when I needed it most. Key learning. Sometimes the deepest betrayals are not the ones against others, but the ones against ourselves. I wasn't just hiding the truth from Elena. I was hiding it from myself. Pain rips away the illusions we cling to. And if we're willing to stand there, raw, exposed, the fire that burns us can also cleanse us. The truth, when it finally came, didn't destroy me. It gave me a place to begin again, honestly this time. Invitation. Before you run from the wreckage, pause. Ask yourself, what truth have I been avoiding? Not from others, but from myself. You don't have to broadcast it. You just have to stop betraying your own reflection. Look in the mirror and say, I see you. I won't abandon you anymore. It might sting, but that's how the truth works. First it burns, then it frees. Closing quote. The truth does not destroy you. Pretending does. Chapter 3. Buried under not enough. The story. After the collapse, something else crept in. Something more insidious than guilt or grief. Shame. It didn't yell. It whispered, quietly, constantly. You're a failure. You're weak. You're unlovable. And for a long time, I listened. I believed it. I walked through life like I was already on trial. I questioned every move. I stopped trusting myself. I looked at my reflection and saw a man who had fallen. Not once, but in ways that felt permanent, final. It's easy to survive a collapse. It's much harder to survive the story you tell yourself afterward. Man, that's true. And it wasn't just Elena. It wasn't just the woman. It wasn't even just the drugs. If I'm honest, I think the shame went deeper, maybe all the way back to childhood. I don't know exactly where it began. Who knows how these things happen? Maybe it was small moments, feeling not enough, feeling unseen, feeling like love had to be earned instead of given. And over time, that feeling hardened into a story I didn't even realize I was telling myself. You ruin good things. You disappoint the people you love. You'll never be whole. Shame doesn't have to scream to sink its hooks into you. Sometimes a whisper is all it takes. By the time my marriage ended, by the time Joe died, by the time I met Elena, I was already carrying a lifetime of quiet guilt. After the collapse with Elena, I threw myself into trying to fix it. I thought if I could just get her back, everything would be okay. I begged. I groveled. I tried to prove I had changed. Overnight, if that's what it would take. There were cycles. No contact. Then I'd reach out. She'd respond. Then go silent. I'd spiral. Shame burning through me like acid. I'd swear I was done. And then I'd go back again. It was soul-crushing, demoralizing, exhausting in a way I didn't know was possible. This is where shame reared its ugly head. Not only had I messed up badly, but I had become the one thing I never thought I could be. That guy. The one who doesn't realize what he has until it's gone. The one who pleads for love like it's oxygen. The one who forgets his own worth in the name of someone else's approval. And that's what hit me the hardest. I've never been that man. I've always prided myself on cherishing what's good in my life, and I've done pretty good at that. But somehow, I had become unrecognizable to myself. I knew I had done wrong, but the guilt and shame didn't just say, I did something bad. They whispered, I am something bad. It was fucking heavy. Still is some days. And then I began to see it clearly. It wasn't Elena who needed to forgive me. It was me who needed to forgive me. You know how people toss around the phrase, a bitter pill to swallow, like it's no big deal? Like it's just some cliche about hard news? Well, this season of my life didn't give me one bitter pill. It gave me a whole bottle. And I had to take them all, one by one. I still am. My own medicine. And some of these pills were the hardest truths I've ever had to choke down. Shame wasn't just hurting the relationship. It was eroding my dignity. I had been trading my self-respect for the hope of being chosen again. It took everything in me to face this truth. Forgiveness isn't something you beg for from someone else. It's something you grant yourself when you're finally ready to rebuild. I was haunted by the story I thought others were telling about me, that I had ruined everything, that I was too much of a mess to ever rebuild anything that mattered. I spiraled, not with chaos, but with self-condemnation. The mind doesn't need drugs to spiral. Shame is enough. I didn't know who I was without the mask of success, without someone else's love propping me up. I was ashamed of my past, afraid of my future, and I wore that fear like a second skin. And yes, there were good days too. Days when I showed up. Days when I smiled for my daughter, or hit a work milestone, or laughed with a friend. But even in those moments, shame was lurking in the background, reminding me, you don't deserve this. Guilt whispers, you made a mistake. Shame whispers, you are the mistake. I was buried under it. Key learning. Shame doesn't just punish you for what you did. It tries to convince you that that's all you are. It tries to bury you alive under your worst moments. It tries to steal your future by chaining you to your past. And if you don't name it, if you don't call it out, you will live inside its walls without even realizing they're there. But here's the truth. You are not the worst thing you've done. You are the choices you make after. The comeback doesn't start when the world forgives you. Fuck that. It starts when you refuse to stay buried in shame and decide that you're still worth rebuilding. Even if no one else says so. Even if you have to whisper it at first. Invitation. Right now, without editing, without performing, ask yourself, what shame story have I been obeying without even realizing it? Name it, see it, and refuse to keep living under it. You don't have to erase your past. You just have to refuse to be buried by it. Write down one truth. For example, I am not my worst moment. I am my next one, my next move. Say it out loud if you can. Break the silence. That's how the shame dies. Closing quote. Shame is not your grave. It's the dirt you push through to reach the sky again.